subscribe to the channel. It's easy and fast.
The apartment on the 10th floor of an elegant building in São Paulo was a sanctuary of love and promises. Pedro and Luisa, together for 3 years, had transformed the space into a reflection of their engagement. The white walls displayed framed photos, a kiss in the rain in Paris, laughter on a Florianopolis beach, and an awkward selfie from their first night there, surrounded by moving boxes. Now, a week before their wedding, the apartment buzzed with preparations. Gold-embossed invitations stacked on the dining table, a test bouquet of white roses and hydrangeas exuding a subtle fragrance, and porcelain bride and groom figurines that Luisa had chosen with care. It was a fairy tale scene, but beneath the surface, secrets were beginning to erode the foundations. Pedro, 33, was a talented architect with tousled brown hair and dark brown eyes that caught subtle details. Raised in a small town in São Paulo's countryside, he had learned from his father, a civil engineer, to value precision in projects and in life. His instincts were sharp. At 15, he had exposed a friend who stole money from their class, guided by an intuition he couldn't explain. In love, however, he allowed himself to be vulnerable. He met Luisa 5 years ago at a mutual friend's party. Her infectious laugh and vibrant energy captivated him. "You're my north," he would say, kissing her forehead. In recent months, he had noticed Luisa growing distant, staring at her phone, giving curt responses. It's just wedding stress, he thought, ignoring the signals his instincts picked up, the same instincts that had saved him so many times. Luisa, 32, was a creative force at the digital marketing agency where she worked. Her curly hair cascaded down, and her smile diffused any tension. The only child of divorced parents in Rio de Janeiro, she grew up between her mother's rigidity, a teacher, and her father's bohemian spirit, a musician. This duality made her resilient but vulnerable to dangerous nostalgias. Her innocent secret began months ago when Marcelo, an ex-boyfriend from college, contacted her. Marcelo, now married with 2 children, said he needed to close the cycle. What started as casual messages, "How are you?" evolved into confessions. "Have you ever thought about what could have been?" Luisa, suffocated by the weight of the wedding, the $15,000 dress, the 200-guest list, the family expectations, allowed the conversations as an escape. "It's just nostalgia," she convinced herself, saving his contact as Marcelo, ex-married, to remind herself of the boundaries. But each message pulled her deeper, blending guilt and excitement. On that hot September night, the air conditioner hummed softly. Pedro arrived with a grocery bag, the smell of fresh bread filling the space. He kissed Luisa, who was arranging colorful sprinkles for the wedding cake. Her phone vibrated on the table, the screen lighting up with a notification from Marcelo. "I need to see you one last time." She quickly locked it, forcing a smile. "Honey, did you see Aunt Rosa's invitation?" Pedro asked, leaning to kiss her shoulder. "It's in the drawer," Luisa replied, her heart racing. While he searched, she typed hurriedly, "Not now. He's here." Her past with Marcelo haunted her. In college, they dated for 4 years, an intense relationship of backpacking trips and passionate fights. He had left her for another, leaving her devastated. Now married, he had reappeared, rekindling memories. "It's just a goodbye," Luisa thought, but the guilt grew. Pedro returned with the invitation, excited. "The song list is ready." "Our song, 1,000 Years," Luisa mumbled, avoiding his gaze. "Beautiful, love." He kissed her neck. She flinched slightly. "I'm going to shower," he said, leaving. Alone, Luisa whispered to her phone, "We can't talk." The apartment, once cozy, now felt like a stage for hidden tensions, the bride and groom figurines silent witnesses to an uncertain future. As hot water streamed down Pedro's face in the shower, he tried to wash away the exhaustion of a long day at the architecture firm. Sustainable building projects and endless meetings consumed him. But nothing excited him more than returning to Luisa. He recalled the proposal. On Ipanema Beach, the sun setting, the ring gleaming in a velvet box. Luisa had cried, hugging him tightly. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Now with the church booked, the catering hired, and the guest list finalized, the excitement was tinged with an anxiety he couldn't explain. Louisa had been different lately. She obsessively checked her phone, laughed at messages she didn't share. "Work," she said. Pedro, trusting, didn't press, but his instincts, those that had warned him of frauds and lies in the past, whispered alerts. "It's just stress," he rationalized, trying to silence the inner voice. In the living room, Louisa finished typing to Marcelo. "Maybe tomorrow." She deleted the message, her chest tight. Marcelo had been her first love in college, in Rio's communication program. They backpacked, dreamed of a life without constraints. The breakup was brutal. He left her for another, shattering her heart. Years later, seeing him married on social media, she moved on with Pedro. But Marcelo's recent messages rekindled old flames. He said he missed her, that he never forgot her. Louisa, under the pressure of the wedding, her mother demanding perfection, her father sending cold checks, the weight of $100,000 event, allowed herself to flirt with the past. "It's the stress," she justified. Marcelo offered an emotional escape, a reminder of a time without responsibilities. Just a real goodbye, she thought, ignoring the risk. Pedro emerged from the shower, a towel around his waist, and went to the kitchen for a teacup. He planned to surprise Louisa, but stopped when he heard her whisper, "We can't talk now, he's here." Intrigued, he stayed silent, watching. Louisa, distracted, played a voice message from Marcelo, forgetting the volume was maxed. His deep voice echoed through the apartment. "I know I shouldn't, but the idea of you getting married hit me. I just want to see you one last time, Lou. A real goodbye." Pedro froze, the teacup trembling in his hand. Louisa turned pale, her eyes wide with panic. "Pedro," he processed the words, the name Marcelo X, married, burning in his memory. "Who is he? Why a real goodbye?" he asked, his voice low, dangerous. Louisa stammered, "It's nothing. He's an ex. He contacted me to close the cycle. It's innocent." But Pedro saw beyond. The previous Tuesday, driven by an unexplained suspicion, he had followed her to a cafe. He'd taken a photo from a distance. Louisa laughing with a tall man, her eyes sparkling in a way he hadn't seen in months. "You lied," he accused, showing the image. The confrontation escalated. Louisa denied, tears welling. "It was just coffee. Nothing physical, I swear. He's married, has kids." Pedro shouted, "With our future on the table, invitations sent, and you're meeting a married ex for a goodbye. That's betrayal." He recalled every moment, nights planning children, dream trips, all tainted. Louisa pleaded, "I love you. I'm confused, the wedding's overwhelming." But Pedro saw the truth in her eyes. The apartment, lit by warm lamps, felt claustrophobic. His instincts, which he'd tried to ignore, now screamed the truth. The woman he loved had betrayed him emotionally. The tension, built on silences and lies, was about to explode, leaving them on the edge of an irreversible abyss. The echo of Marcelo's voice message lingered like an unwelcome intruder. Pedro, teacup in hand, felt his heart race. "Explain this, Louisa. Now." His voice trembled with contained fury, each word sharp as a blade. Louisa, wide-eyed, tried to downplay it. "Pedro, please, it's not what it seems. Marcelo is an ex. He contacted me months ago to talk about the past, to close the cycle. That's all, I swear." But her words rang hollow, and Pedro saw the guilt on her face, flushed cheeks, trembling hands clutching the phone. He recalled the photo he took on Tuesday. The setting sun lit the cafe, where Louisa met a tall man, laughing in a way Pedro hadn't seen in weeks. "You think I'm blind? I followed you. I took this." He showed the image on his phone. Louisa and Marcelo, their hands nearly touching across the table, gazes complicit. Louisa swallowed hard, tears welling. It was just one meeting. Nothing physical happened. "He's married, has kids. I was confused." Pedro exploded. "Confused. With everything paid for, 3 years together, the wedding next week, and you're meeting a married ex for a goodbye. That's betrayal, Louisa." Louisa collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing, "Forgive me. The wedding's suffocating me. The pressure, the expectations, everything. Marcelo reminds me of a simpler time, without responsibilities. It doesn't mean anything." But to Pedro, it meant everything. He paced, reliving moments, the Ipanema proposal, promises of a family, plans to travel the world. Every memory now felt poisoned. "I built my life around you," he murmured, his voice breaking. "My instincts warned me, but I ignored them for love." He grabbed an invitation from the table, his fingers trembling. With cold rage, he tore it in half, the pieces falling like bitter confetti. Luisa fell to her knees, pleading, "No, Pedro, please! We can get through this, do therapy, anything." But he cut her off. "You chose to say goodbye to another man before saying yes to me. How can I trust you now?" His voice was a mix of pain and resolve. The apartment, with its happy photos and jasmine candles, had become an emotional battlefield. The bride and groom figurines on the table seemed to mock the shattered dream. Luisa tried to approach, but Pedro stepped back, keeping her at a distance. "I gave you everything," he said, his eyes welling. "My trust, my future. And you threw it away for a cycle you never closed." She sobbed, her words choked. "I love you, Pedro. It was a mistake, that's all." But he saw beyond. The betrayal wasn't physical but emotional, and that cut deeper. His instincts, which he had tried to ignore, now screamed the truth. He looked at the carry-on bag in the corner, meant for a work trip, and made a decision. "It's over," he said, his voice firm. "The wedding, us, everything." The confrontation left them exhausted. Luisa, still on the floor, clutched the torn invitation pieces, as if she could glue the past back together. Pedro, heart in tatters, grabbed the bag, knowing each step toward the door was a step away from the future he had imagined. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Luisa's sobs and the hum of the air conditioner. What had been a home was now a tomb of broken memories, and both knew there was no going back. With the invitation pieces scattered on the floor, Pedro felt a searing pain, as if he had torn his own heart. "I truly loved you, Luisa," he said, his voice a whisper heavy with hurt. "But this is the end." He walked to the corner of the room, where the carry-on bag waited, planned for a work trip the next day. Now it would be his permanent exit. Luisa, still on the floor, sobbed, "Don't go, Pedro. We can talk. Fix this." But he was resolute, his eyes fixed on the door. "You have until the end of the week to move out. Leave the keys on the counter." He tossed the keys onto the kitchen counter, the metallic clank echoing like a final verdict. Each step toward the door was a battle against the urge to look back. He recalled their first night in the apartment, toasting with cheap wine, laughing at simple dreams. Now everything was tainted. He walked out, the door slamming with a thud that seemed to seal the end of 3 years of engagement. Alone, Luisa collapsed over the invitation pieces, tears staining the paper. "What have I done?" she murmured, her voice muffled. She grabbed her phone, deleting Marcelo's messages with trembling fingers. She sent one last message. "You ruined everything." He replied with vague apologies, but she blocked his number, knowing it was too late. The apartment, once full of life, now suffocated her. Every object, the mug reading "You are my home," the photo frame from their Italy trip, was a stab. She dragged herself to the bedroom, lying on the bed where they had planned their future, and cried until she fell asleep. Pedro, in a modest hotel on the outskirts, stayed awake all night. He cancelled the wedding with curt messages to vendors. "Event cancelled. Refund what you can." He ignored calls from family and friends, bombarded with questions. "I need time," he told himself, staring at the cracked ceiling. He mentally revisited every sign. The nights Luisa seemed absent, the messages she hid. His instincts had warned him, but love had blinded him. Now the decision to leave, guided by those same instincts, was liberating but painful. He imagined what could have been: the ceremony, children, a life together. It had all crumbled because of a message. In the following days, Luisa packed her things into cardboard boxes. Each item was a reminder of what she had lost. She moved to a friend's house, spending nights revisiting old photos, questioning her choices. Was it really innocent? She thought, realizing the flirtation with Marcelo wasn't just nostalgia, but an escape from the pressure consuming her. Pedro, meanwhile, wandered São Paulo's streets, trying to erase the image of Luisa with Marcelo. He visited the venue where the wedding would have been, now empty, and felt an even greater void. Friends supported him, better now than later, but the pain lingered, a weight he carried in silence. The rupture was final but not painless. Pedro knew he had made the right choice, but it didn't ease the hurt. Luisa, confronted with loneliness, began to understand the cost of her mistakes. The apartment, now empty, was a symbol of what could have been and what would never be. Both in their own way began to rebuild, but the scars from that September night would remain forever. Months after the breakup, Pedro immersed himself in work, designing sustainable buildings that symbolized the stability his personal life had lost. He traveled to Lisbon for a restoration project, sketching ancient cathedrals under a grey sky. Solitude helped him find peace, but also made him cautious. He started dating again, but with reservations, his instincts now sharper. Each new relationship was tested against Luisa's memory, a reminder of what happens when intuition is ignored. Luisa found refuge in therapy. The sessions forced her to confront her insecurities, the fear of failure, the pressure to be perfect, the temptation to escape into the past. She changed jobs, taking a freelance project that led her to travel across Brazil. In each city, Recife, Salvador, Porto Alegre, she tried to leave the guilt behind. "I didn't cheat physically," she told herself, but she knew the emotional betrayal had been devastating. She had deleted Marcelo from her life, but the weight of her choices remained. 2 years later, fate brought them together at an architecture event in São Paulo. Pedro, now with shorter hair and a more mature air, presented an innovative project. Luisa, there as part of a marketing campaign, saw him from afar. Their eyes met, and for a moment the past returned like a wave. They exchanged polite words. "You look well," Pedro said, his voice neutral. "So do you," Luisa replied with a sad smile. There was no anger, just a silent melancholy. Both went their separate ways, but the encounter rekindled reflections. Pedro wondered if he could have forgiven Luisa, if she could have been honest with herself. The consequences of that September shaped them forever. Pedro built a new life, but carried an unexplained void. Luisa learned to live with guilt, but never forgot the price paid. The apartment, now occupied by strangers, held echoes of a love undone. Their story, marked by passion, betrayal, and redemption, raises an eternal question. Did Pedro do the right thing by ending it all? 3 years of engagement, 1 week until the wedding. A message was theened.
Subscribe to the channel. It's easy and fast.